Yes guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you all about the relationship between quantity and quality across four main areas. So this is quite a controversial talking point because what you have is you have a camp of people who tell you that quantity is all that matters, and then you have another camp of people that tell you that quality is all that matters. And I'm going to help you to filter through a little bit of that and make some sense of, well, what is accurate and what is not accurate. And straight away, I'm going to go right against the grain and I'm going to add in a third category, and that third category is going to be the category of both. Because guess what? Context matters. So those that tell you it's all about quantity or those that tell you it's all about quality, well, sometimes that might be the case. Quite often it might not be. Quite often it's going to be a combination of both, which is not often the answer that people want to hear, because people want to have a one-size-fits-all answer. They want to say, right, look, just tell me the answer. Is it quantity or quality? It's quality. Great, thank you. Right, but obviously there's nuance, right? There's context that's needed to be applied here, and sometimes it might be one or the other. Oftentimes it's going to be both. And I'm going to help you to kind of figure out when that might be. So the first topic that we're going to dive into is that of diet or food. So the debate between what is more important, how much you eat or what you eat, right? So this is a bit of a complex one because obviously, like I said, people will say, oh, it doesn't really matter how many calories you have per day. What matters is where you get the calories from. And then some people will go, completely the other way, and they'll say, oh, it doesn't matter, what you eat. All that matters is how many calories you consume on a daily basis. Well, newsflash, as you might have imagined, it is going to be under the category of both, okay? So when it comes to diet, when it comes to your nutrition, actually it's both that need to be considered. You can't just pick one or the other, because you can have a very high quality diet, a really high quality food, but you could be having too much, and therefore you might end up gaining weight and so on and so forth, and that's probably not going to be ideal, right? Now, to give that side of the argument its due, it is generally going to be a lot harder to consume a vast amount of calories with a very high quality diet, because generally most of the high quality foods that you're going to be eating, not very processed, not very refined, high in fiber, high in protein, all of those things, they're going to be very filling. So obviously sometimes you have to also balance up this debate between theory and practice. So in theory, could I have a very high quality diet and over consume calories? Yeah, of course. In practice, however, that might be a little bit harder to do because those foods are, very, very filling. How much fruit can you eat? How many vegetables can you eat? How many bowls of porridge are you going to eat, right? Well, realistically, people who have a very high quality diet are probably going to make it a little bit easier for themselves to monitor their quantity of food. But quantity is still important, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to maintain weight, if you're trying to maintain health, if you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, whatever your goals might be, it does obviously come down to the quantity of calories that you're going to consume or expend in any given day, any given week, and so on and so forth, right? So it's both, right? It is a little bit of both. We need to have a high quality diet, and then depending on your goals, what you're trying to achieve, you need to also consider the quantity of energy that you're consuming and expending. So again, context is key. It's not just one or the other, it's actually both. So next on the agenda is going to be the topic of hydration or fluid intake. And this is a topic, if you've watched any of my recent videos or anything like that, you will have seen that this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, that I talk about quite a lot. Hydration or fluid intake, right? And those terms always get conflated together, right? So most often people are being recommended and advised on the basis of fluid intake. Very rarely are they being recommended or advised on the basis of the hydration, right? Crucial thing to remember is fluid intake is nice and simple. How much fluid do you intake? Hydration is what does your body do with that fluid? How are the balances of your electrolytes within the body, right? So again, we have this same debate. What ends up happening is people will say, well, it doesn't really matter about hydration. All that matters is drinking loads of water, quantity. Get your 1.5 litres, get your 6 to 8 glasses, and your job's done. Wrong. So on this, I would actually be placing hydration over here on the quality side, because actually overhydration is very common. If you drink too much water, if you drink too much in one go, you can unbalance the electrolytes within your body and you're flushing them out of your system. Not to mention with the fact that if you are someone who exercises, if you sweat, if you have a high metabolism, you're not sweating out water, you're sweating out salt, you're sweating out minerals, electrolytes, and they need to be replenished. So yes, whilst the quantity of fluid does have an impact as well, obviously you can't just drink nothing, realistically, I would sway more to the quality side of things. It depends on how you're drinking. Are you sipping throughout the day, or are you downing all in one go? Are you keeping those electrolytes nice and balanced and therefore hydrating your muscles and your body in a more efficient way? So for this, I'm going for quality. So next topic on the agenda is another topic that I'm very passionate about, one of my favorite topics to discuss, and that is the topic of sleep. So again, very, very controversial when it comes to quantity or quality. I've heard many times over the years people say, well, it doesn't really matter how much sleep you get. You can have 4 or 5 hours and they can still be very high quality and you're all good to go. Conversely, I've also heard the opposite, where people say, well, I get 8 or 9 hours, cool, no problem, doesn't really matter about the quality as long as I'm getting enough. Both of those statements are somewhat flawed, they are somewhat incorrect. So let's go with the first. I can sleep 4 or 5 hours as long as they're high quality, all good to go. Not the case whatsoever. So for you to get a sufficient quality of sleep, you actually need to get a sufficient quantity as well. So as you might have imagined, sleep is going to be popped into the category of both. You need both, right? So if you get 8 or 9 hours and they're poor quality, that's not great, right? If you're waking up several times, if there's many disturbances, if you're unable to drop into deep sleep for a number of reasons, and if you're getting only 4 or 5 hours and they're very high quality, I mean, that's good. That is good. If you're able to get high quality 4 or 5 hours, it's better than not, obviously. However, for you to get into that REM sleep, that rapid eye movement dream sleep, you need to be asleep for a certain period of time. You need to be able to get into that 7th hour at least, because the majority of your REM sleep happens in the second half of the night. So on this front, it is a case of both. You need to consider both. And as I've said, this isn't going to be the answer that everybody wants to hear, but it's the truth. You need to consider both your quality and quantity of sleep, not necessarily just one or the other. Now, obviously that can be situation dependent. If you have no control over your quantity of sleep, then obviously do what you can to focus on the quality, right? That obviously makes some sense. But in general, we want to be able to try and influence and change and improve both of these factors. Right, so into our final topic, and that is exercise, right? Again, raging debate. Is it how much exercise I should be doing, or is it the type of exercise that I'm doing? You will hear a lot of people say, right, how many steps do I need to do a day? How much exercise do I need to do? Oh, I need to do 30 minutes 5 times a week. I need to do 10,000 steps and blah, blah, blah. Well, again, actually, I'm going to be going with quality on this one. I'm going to be placing exercise over here in terms of quality. Because it's all about the type of exercise that you do. How much exercise you do really is irrelevant. It's down to personal preference. If you enjoy exercise, if you're training for something, you know, crack on and do as much as you want. However, as I've mentioned in previous videos, only 5% of the calories that you expend every single day are burnt through exercise. So the quantity really doesn't matter. Whether you're doing half an hour, really doesn't make a difference. What matters more so than how much exercise you're doing is that you do some, because there's an array of benefits for doing exercise, and the type of exercise that you're doing. I've discussed this many times as well. Resistance and strength-based exercise is often neglected and overlooked, and it's absolutely so important to incorporate into your routine. Don't just be a cardio bunny. Don't just religiously only exclusively do cardiovascular exercise. As I mentioned before, the more cardiovascular exercise you do, the more adapted you get at doing that particular exercise, which is quite a good thing if you're training for something in particular. But if you're just trying to improve your health, what happens is, if I go for the same run 20 million times at the same speed, at the same intensity, the same distance, my body is going to become more efficient at performing that run. I'm going to burn fewer calories, so my metabolism is not going to be as high as it could be. Engaging in resistance and strength-based exercise is sending a signal to your body to adapt at becoming stronger, right? Building more muscle. More muscle equals higher metabolism. More muscle equals better management of glucose levels, insulin sensitivity, better strength, better balance, flexibility, mobility, robustness, and so on and so forth. So on the exercise topic, I'm going to be firmly placing my eggs in the quality basket when it comes to the exercise. How much exercise you do really doesn't matter. How much exercise you can and are able to do matters, and the type of exercise that you do matters. Make sure you're mixing it up. Make sure you incorporate a balance of both cardiovascular and strength-based exercises. Right, that's the end of today's video. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you took some things away from it. As always, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any other questions, and I shall see you in the next video. So, see you later.